Hello and welcome to This Week at the Movies. I'm Matt, and I am here to talk about the big movie releasing this week, the big racing blockbuster, and that is F1, the movie, which stands for Formula One. I'm somebody who my dad was huge into cars and big into racing. He kind of gave me my first introduction into racing. We actually went to an IndyCar race live together when I was little. That was kind of fun. I've always had an appreciation, especially when the action is intense and it's a good, competitive, close race. And you get that a lot of times with the best of race car movies. We've seen some really good ones over the last few years. Just a couple of years ago, I really enjoyed Gran Turismo. That would end up being one of my favorite movies of the year. Kind of caught me by surprise. So I was very excited about F1, especially the potential with Joseph Kosinski in the director's seat. Kosinski, of course, gave us Top Gun Maverick. And one of the things that made that movie excel was the excellent way he captured the dogfighting and the action sequences there. It just looked really good on film. So I wondered what he could do with action on the track. Well, this movie centers on a veteran driver named Sonny Hayes, played by Brad Pitt, who was once a great up-and-coming racer who had an accident and kind of took him out of it. Now he's a very accomplished racer, bouncing from spot to spot, never really staying in the same place or the same class of car at the same time. But an old friend, Ruben, played by Javier Bardem, who owns an F1 team and who came up with him in F1, comes to recruit him, asking him to come and help. Essentially, Ruben needs a win or he's going to lose the team, and he's lost his main driver, while his other driver, played by Damson Idris, Joshua Pierce, is a rookie. So Sonny decides to go and give it a go. He instantly connects with Kate McKinnon, played by Carrie Condon, who is the chief engineer, and kind of clashes with Casper, played by Kim Bodnia, who is the crew chief, the head of this racing team. And that racing action here really lived up to the billing. I'm giving this one 2 thumbs up. Gotta find the right depth there. 2 thumbs up. I really enjoyed this one. It lived up to my expectations. I thought the performances were really good. I thought the script, which comes from Aaron Kruger and Joseph Kosinski touched it up, really worked, made characters that I was interested in and cared about. But it was really about that racing action. They do such a great job of in the car, giving you the feel, and being down on the track. There are some very emotional and dynamic sequences, and it ends up being a lot of fun. I thought this was a heck of a ride. One of my favorite movies of the year so far. As I said, couple thumbs up. I also think this is the kind of movie that was meant to be seen on the big screen. It's fantastic for a theatrical experience, especially I went and saw it on an IMAX format last night. I really enjoyed it on that big format. If you're somebody that likes that big action, that was one of the real draws too of seeing Top Gun Maverick in theaters, was those action sequences. You enjoy them at home, but you can't get the same experience on home viewing, and I think that's the same for F1. I like the story, I like the performances. I thought all of the main cast does a nice job. I had a lot of fun with this movie. I think you will too. Hopefully it'll do really well at the box office. But F1, it was one of my most anticipated films of the summer, and it certainly delivered. It is a big way to end the month of June, which has been surprisingly solid. I was here a couple weeks ago talking about some of the middle of the month movies that I really enjoyed. F1 just caps it really well. Again, one of my favorite movies of the year so far. I'll probably go into that more next week. I'm going to be doing a mid-year top 5 for both TV and movies. And spoiler alert, only a couple days left until the midpoint. I'm pretty sure F1 is going to be on that list. Another movie that was an anticipated movie this summer that is decidedly not going to be on that list for me is 28 Years Later. This one, the third film in the franchise that's about the rage virus that takes over the UK. It all kicked off in 2002 with Alex Garland crafting a script that was directed by Danny Boyle, kind of introducing this new kind of take on zombies and zombie worlds. That's been led to a spin-off sequel that came out in 2007. Neither the writer nor the director was involved with that. None of the main cast was there. It was not as well received. But now both Boyle and Garland are back, creating this new story, which is actually the start of its own trilogy. Cue the eye roll, at least from me. A lot of people were anticipating this one. It had kind of a creepy, moody trailer that made me a little bit interested in this, but the movie just sadly does not live up to those expectations. I don't want to ruin the plot too much, but this is really about a family who is living it's nearly 3 decades since the virus ravaged the UK, and the UK basically got quarantined, leaving the healthy survivors on their own. We have a young boy, Spike, who's just turning 12, played by Alfie Williams. He obviously has just grown up in this world. He's never known a world free of this kind of infection. He grows up with his father, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, and his mother, played by Jodie Comer. His mother struggling, some kind of illness. They're not sure what's going on, but we start out with him and his father making a trek from this kind of secluded island where their community is set up onto the mainland so that he can have his first experience of being a hunter and seeing what it takes to survive this world. That's kind of the first part of the movie. And then the second part ends up being a quest that he takes on, basically trying to save his mother. We see Ray Fiennes pop up in the third act in a small role, which was kind of interesting. And then we get kind of an opening sequence and a closing sequence that tie to the future films. This, as I mentioned, is supposed to be a modern trilogy. So the ending a little more open-ended, and it takes a little while before the kind of cold open of the film comes back around and you make a connection there. And that's obviously something that we're going to see moving forward. Most of this is the story of this one interconnected family. I was never a huge fan of 28 Days Later or 28 Years Later, so I didn't think this was going to appeal to me greatly. I have, I don't always take to Boyle's cinematic style. He has a very unique cinematic style, and he's very good at what he does. It doesn't always work for me, and the story here and the characters really didn't pop for me. There is a moment, unfortunately, at the end of the second and the early part of the third act that did feel very emotionally resonant, and that is when Ray Fiennes comes into the movie. I really enjoyed his performance. I really like Jodie Comer and Alfie Williams. They have a great few moments there, but it felt disconnected to me from most of the bulk of the beginning of the movie, and where we end up at the end of the movie, it kind of took me out of it. So I'm giving this one a thumbs down. Just did not work for me. Not one of my favorite films here of the summer. I thought it had some potential. I also think we're kind of in a saturated market for these kind of post-apocalyptic virus or zombie films. That wasn't necessarily the case back in 2002 when the first movie came out. Now we've gotten tons of movies, but we also get tons of weekly TV shows. AMC practically built a whole brand off of The Walking Dead and all of its spinoffs. Even things like The Last of Us kind of take the same idea of a virus and humanity being wiped out, and what does it look like when you're moving on. So we've seen a lot of these kind of stories before. There are some creative elements here. There are some very creative look and set pieces, some very striking set pieces. You see some of that in the trailer. Some of those stood out, but the movie as a whole just was more fizzle than sizzle for me. So I did not enjoy that one. So just to recap, F1, 2 thumbs up. I really loved it. I think it's one of my favorite movies of the year so far. 28 Years Later, there are some great craft in it. If you were a fan of the first 2 movies, it's probably worth checking out. There are some wonderful sequences. Again, Ray Fiennes, Jodie Comer give some great performances, but it did not work for me. I'm giving that one a thumbs down. Well, that's going to be a wrap on my quick look at movies this week. I will be back next week looking at Jurassic World Rebirth. I'll also be giving you my definitive ranking on all of the Jurassic movies, including Rebirth. So there will be 7 in total. And I'll probably be checking back in with both Elio and Megan 2.0 as I wrap up some of the other movies from June. So something to look forward to. But until then, I'll see you guys at the movies.